With Logan Paul and KSI, you said you didn't want to get into these celebrity type of matches. Has your stance changed on that over the last?
It has actually, yeah. I mean, look, we're numbers people. Everybody's numbers people in this game. You're doing this interview trying to get as many views as you can. The Zone are trying to get as many subscriptions as you can, Sky Sports, etc. So anything that delivers is good news for everybody. What we can't do is just turn into a circus and start having random people fighting people on cards all over the place. But it's been amazing to learn about this experience, learn their business, and these guys are very smart people. Like, we're looking at the pre-buy numbers for DAZN, Sky Sports, Fight TV. It's blowing my mind. You know, it's at the same kind of level as an Anthony Joshua fight, or even bigger. You know, and these guys have earned the right to be here because they've built this brand, this profile, but they've taken it seriously. I saw the first fight; it was decent. It's never going to be Hagler Hearns, but it's decent. They're fit guys, they're athletes, they can fight, but this time, no head guards, 10-ounce gloves. It's going to be a different kind of fight. And if it's a good fight, if it's thrilling, if it's exciting, you're going to see many more of these. It won't just come from me. It's going to come from other promoters that are going to look at the numbers and say, we've got to do this because we can't satisfy the demand of all these celebrities, all these YouTubes trying to do the same thing.
With everyone you have in the Matchroom stable, are they kind of raising their hands saying, yeah, put Logan Paul and these kinds of fighters on our card so we can kind of grow our profile? Is that?
I think the smart ones are. I mean, I've seen them this week. Like, we've seen fighters' profiles and numbers follow, grow digitally and socially through their alignment with this event. You know, yesterday KSI and Billy Joe Saunders did a lot of media together. Billy Joe Saunders all of a sudden would have more people visiting his page, more people trying to find out about him. And it's up to them on Saturday night to produce a performance where these new fans go, wow, who's this guy? Billy Joe Saunders. Follow. I like this guy. Devin Haney. I mean, if you're a young fan from that YouTube audience, what better fighter than Devin Haney to break that mold between the two and those barriers to become a fight fan? So it's a big opportunity for them. It is a one-off in that respect for me, like in terms of headlining a card with a world championship undercard. You know, I don't see you're going to see that a lot. Will you see other YouTube fights on undercards moving forward? Much more likely.
With Devin Haney, of course, you have some big plans for him. First, he has to get through this test. What are your plans for him in 2020, and what kind of fights do you want to?
So he's going to have a mandatory against Javier Fortuna, who just won by knockout last weekend to become the mandatory. Then I want him to fight Luke Campbell, but most of all, I want him to fight Ryan Garcia. That is a mega fight for 2020. And you can say, well, we can marinate that one, it can get bigger. Why? Let's do it now. You know, it's a mega fight, two guys with big profiles, two of the most exciting young fighters in the sport. I love that fight because he's not going to be around at 135 this time next year, Devin Haney. So I think he's got 3 fights left after this fight, and I would like that to be Fortuna, Campbell, and Ryan Garcia.
With Golden Boy and Matchroom, of course, being tied to DAZN, how come we don't see these Golden Boy DAZN cards
because with that fight, that's a very risky fight for both guys, right? So you've got to really fancy your charge to make that fight. Because a lot of people will say, no, let's keep building them. You know, but we believe we'd win that fight. You know, Ryan Garcia is a great fighter. You know, he's extremely popular, got a great profile. But I just feel like that fight is huge, and it can be built over the next 6 to 9 months to really big levels.
And speaking of DAZN, they're your partner. Obviously, over the weekend, we saw how they handled the Canelo Alvarez fight. How would you react to a situation like that if as a promoter, they put your fight on the back burner?
It's understandable because I see everybody's reaction. I mean, Stephen Espinosa, I think, where are we? We're Thursday today. I think he's still tweeting about it. So, but I don't understand. It's pretty straightforward, really. You've got a huge audience watching the UFC, so it kind of makes sense to wait till that fight's over. For me, if they would have come into with my fighter and Anthony Joshua and told him he's got to wait an hour, I would have probably had to walk to the ring rather than sit on a sofa. But from a commercial point of view, it's understandable. I don't get the it shows that UFC say no. It's just like, why fragment an audience where you get a chance to watch both? So it did work for them in terms of subscribers, and viewership numbers were increased because they waited till after that fight. So I think at the end of the day, the DAZN are learning as well. You know what I mean? And this is a good experiment this weekend to see what works and what doesn't.
What are your plans going to be with Gennady Golovkin in 2020?
So
Obviously,
I'm meeting him this afternoon actually to discuss that. And interesting plans. He's been ordered to fight a mandatory with the IBF, which is Sarah Meta, and then of course he wants Canelo on Cinco de Mayo. So already planning his next fight, and there'll be news of that very soon.
do you feel that, considering how he looked against Derevchenko, perhaps aging overnight, he might have to be carefully match made from here on out?
No, I think he's in his prime. You know, he's only going to get older, so he wants the tougher fights now, and that's why he wants to fight Canelo now. I think you're going to get fighters wanting to fight Golovkin more because they think that he was faded against Derevchenko. For me, I think he might have been a little bit undermotivated, and I think Derevchenko was outstanding, and he's a very good fighter. So it's a bit of both, but you know, he'd be having, I think, his defining fights in 2020.
And lastly, with Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua, obviously that's the next big fight in the sport. How's the situation in Saudi Arabia looking with the development of the stadium? Do you have any updates?
Really good. Yeah, we've got like a live update system where they're showing every day the developments. It's not far from done now. They've got 1 month to go. It's got to be ready before our event for another event, the Formula E. So it'll be ready in the next, I think, 2 weeks, and ready for a massive show. It's 1 month today till Joshua Ruiz. It's the biggest fight of the year. It's one of the biggest heavyweight fights of the century. Well, I think it is the biggest heavyweight fight of the century, and it's one that's going to go down in history.
Do you think that's the biggest event you're ever going to be a part of to this point?
Klitschko against Joshua at Wembley, 90,000, heavyweight unification is a big fight, but in terms of a groundbreaking fight, in terms of one that's going to go down historically, I think this is the biggest fight we've done.
You've broken a lot of grounds this year. What's something you want to do for 2020?
Just continue to expand into new markets. So obviously we're launching Italy this year. We've done 7 really good shows. We go to Spain on December 12th for our first Spanish show in Barcelona. We're looking at Canada and Japan in 2020 and Germany. So just continue to expand globally, but also keep our eyes on the ball in the markets that we exist in and continue to put on great events.